Alrighty. Hi everyone, I am Jay, the second half of this presentation and project. You just heard from Ashley, who talked about kind of her introduction and what she did with the project, and then the holidays and different languages rather. And so my portion of the project and presentation were to do the survey. And so with everything going on with COVID-19, I went to the public in a different way. Before this, I was supposed to go around campus and talk to people around the campus and see like maybe what their opinion was with the questions I asked in the survey. But with COVID-19 going on, I wasn't able to do that, so I went to this in a different way. I did a survey and I kind of liked how this turned out because I was able to reach different ages, different people from different cultures, races that spoke different languages, that kind of thing. So it was kind of like a good alternative, if you would. So yeah, I was able to get a couple different responses, people that would take time out of their day to do so. Couldn't force anyone to do it or kind of scare them into it. So what I got is what I got, but I did really like the things I got because I did get different ages, which is something I don't think I would have gotten if I did it through Ferris State. So yeah, I got people from as old as my grandparents who were in their 70s and graduated high school in the 1950s to people as young as my cousin's daughter, who's in elementary school. So I was able to reach a lot of different people with this. So the first thing I'm gonna dive into is, if I can find it, is our advocacy project survey. So I'm going to talk about the questions. The first question was, how was there diversity in your school? What type of diversity, if any, did you experience? In your opinion, how was your experience with the diversity in your classroom specifically? Do you think educators should advocate for more diversity for children? How could educators bring more diversity into the classroom to impact positively on the children? And then, what is, if any, something that shouldn't be included in diversity for children? So those were kind of the questions I asked, and then how it went. It went really well. I got really good answers from everybody. Just to kind of clarify what a lot of people said was, for diversity, that last question that I said was to not include religion, which is totally understandable. That is something that should be kept at home, behind closed doors and exposed to children if their parents want it that way. But one answer that someone said was maybe tell children that there is religion and people do celebrate things like that. And it's completely okay if you do, and if you don't, it's completely okay as well. So yeah, that's something I just wanted to clarify really quick. So yeah, overall how it went, I really liked it. I would do it again. I kind of preferred it this way better because I was able to reach a lot of different people. And then after I got some of the people to answer the survey, I also went back and if they told me that they did it, I asked them a couple more questions to kind of expand on what they said. So I really liked how it went. Moving on to results and recommendations. Some recommendations for the classroom were books. Books, and books. A lot of people in their short answer says that books are a really good way for children to get exposed to diversity, which I agree with 100%. Having books with different cultures, languages, races, and genders is some way to get that exposure for them, because books are one thing that at home, it's something, before they're at school, it gets introduced to them at home. Their parents are reading them books, or they're getting books and reading it themselves, or just kind of playing with the pages, but it's something that they're used to and something that they will gravitate towards. So yeah, having books that maybe have their lifestyle in it or a different lifestyle is something that will help them get that exposure. Maybe having a book about a certain culture or a book that has a different language, let's say that it has Spanish in it, that opens the doors for them to ask us questions and then us be able to answer them as best as we can with that. Another thing I like about books is something that they can do is children will read the books, maybe they will go to dramatic play and act out that book. So my cousin and I were talking the other day, and he said that one of the teachers before this whole COVID-19 had started bringing a lot more diversity into the class. There was a book about pyramids in India, and my cousin, his daughter, read that book or had that book read to her, and she went out and acted on it. She went out to the dramatic play area and she started building pyramids. And when a teacher asked her, hey, what are you building? She's like, well, I read this book, or so-and-so read the book to me. And I thought those pyramids were really cool, and I wanted to build it myself. So then she started building them. The teacher was asking her open-ended questions about those and then answering any questions that my cousin had for her. So I thought that was a really cool way to introduce that diversity into the classroom. So the next thing is diverse things to play with. The first thing that comes to mind for me when it talks about diverse things to play with is like having dolls. Either having dolls that look like them or dolls that completely don't. Or dolls that look like someone else in the classroom. So example of this was having a primarily white classroom, but then having those African American or Hispanic or Chinese student in there. Having those dolls that do look like the white students, but then having a doll that does look like an African American. This will open the doors for those children to play with dolls that they normally wouldn't or wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards. Because I know that when I was younger in the classroom, there were dolls that were all white, had blonde hair or really light brown hair. And I just played with them. And I mean, I thought about it. I was like, these dolls never really looked like me. And sooner rather than later, I stopped playing with dolls. I was more into different things. But it wasn't until I was about 13 or maybe 12, my aunt brought, for one of my birthday presents, she brought a doll that looked like me. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because I felt connected to that doll. So yeah, I think it's something small, but it's something that can impact them and make them feel more connected to the classroom and feel more welcomed in the classroom when they have toys that do look like them. It's also, I know that it's kind of hard when it comes to like baby dolls, but having dolls that are different genders, maybe having a boy doll in there, maybe that will help the children, boy children, want to play with dolls more, or having girls play with those boy dolls, just to like show them that not all babies are boys or not all babies are girls or anything like that. So it's kind of giving them that exposure to that, to those differences. And then the next one is pictures. Pictures is another one of my favorites. Having pictures of those family members for those certain students that need it, or just having it in general, even if those students don't really look at them, they are looking at them, whether you like see it or not. This way, children can look at those pictures of different families, saying, "Oh, well, that child's parents have are two moms or two dads." Having a picture of a child that wears a scarf on her hair to hide her hair, having that so that the children can be like, "Oh, I wonder why that is," and then the teachers or even the parents or even the child being able to answer, "Oh, that's our culture, that's our religion, we don't show our hair to the rest of the world, that's something only for them and then their husband or their family." I like that one a lot because that really does show the differences of the people in that classroom. And it's something that, we do have a lot of differences in just this classroom. I wonder what the rest of the world is like. And that slowly shows them that. Labels is another big one. Having those labels for anything in the classroom are in English, having them in sign language maybe for those nonverbal students that don't really understand and use their hands for a lot of the things, having them in Spanish or in Chinese for those children that speak those languages at home. So that way they do feel more welcomed into that classroom and feel like they don't have to completely adjust to one thing and then be completely adjusted back at home. And then another one is interactions with differently aged classrooms. So this one would be maybe taking your preschool classroom up into the 3rd grade and seeing maybe the diversity in there. And as you do grow up, you do see a lot more diversity in classrooms and just in life in general. So giving them that look into into what the future will look like for them is something that can help them accept that there is diversity and there are differences all over them. And then incorporating different opinions. So this would be talking to the parents, seeing where their heads would be at if you talked about that, or seeing how they would go about showing the diversity in the classroom, what they would think is appropriate, and talking to not only that, but taking in the students' opinions and talking to the people that you work with, seeing what they would do, that kind of thing. Always looking for different opinions about that. The next one is always being honest and forthcoming. Always answering your child's questions as best as you can. If they have anything, being honest with them is one thing that that was a recommendation for us. And then another one is connect with students and talk with families. If you know who your families are and you know the background of your student, it's going to be helpful when you are trying to explain that diversity to the other students. You don't want to get anything wrong, so making sure you have that connection with the families. Listen to what children have to say. This kind of goes with incorporating different opinions, but this is more so what the children have to say. If they want to do a certain thing or learn about a certain thing, taking that and maybe trying to adjust like what you're doing in the classroom to be able to do that, or even just having a small conversation with the children about that certain matter if they have a question. And then we have treat each child as a unique individual, which is pretty self-explanatory, making sure that they know that, yes, there are a whole bunch of differences and they are a part of that difference and they are a part of that diversity. They are that unique individual and they're not meant to blend in and they're meant to have those differences. And then treat diversity as a continued learning. This kind of goes for everyone. This goes for the parents, the students, the teachers even. There's always going to be something new that you don't know or aren't completely sure of. So making sure that you're not only trying to teach your students, but you're trying to learn as well. And then we have understand that children may share some aspects of their diversity with other students, but not all. We can have students that maybe have the same kind of culture or speak the same language, making sure that they know that there are those students in that classroom and they aren't completely alone, and their diversities do get shared around the world with other people. But it's not always going to be the same for so-and-so and so-and-so. It's going to be different for everyone. And then one thing that's not completely listed on here that I did get a recommendation on is having a culture week, which I thought was pretty cool. A pretty cool recommendation that someone gave me. And I know that would take kind of a lot of time and effort to do in your classroom, because you would have to make sure that if they are bringing in something like food, making sure that every child could eat it, or making sure that it's okay with the rest of the parents that someone's coming in and talking about a certain culture. Because some people aren't okay with that kind of thing, but they want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with it. So yeah, that was a really cool recommendation, was a culture week. So yeah, these are all the results and recommendations that we got or we've found ourselves. And yeah, I thought they were really good recommendations for the survey and for everything that we've been working for. There's something I would include in the classroom or even talk to a teacher about, seeing how that would play out in a classroom. So the next thing, I just found a really cool quote I liked. It's diversity is the one true thing we all have in common, celebrate it every day. There's so many differences in the world, and I believe that children should have that experience to know that they are diverse from everyone around them. There's going to be differences that they have in their household that some people don't have, and that's something to celebrate every day because it is a difference. And then we just want to say thank you for tuning into this presentation and maybe learning something. It was a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to see what the public had to say and a lot of fun to see what Ashley found on her side of the presentation. But yeah, we just want to say thank you. And